All right, let's review the fixed income market right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Joining us is Chuka Nwachukwu, who's head balance sheet management at UBA. Great to have you. Good morning.
Morning, Ladi.
Yeah, so it's been quite a week in the fixed income market. How would you describe, liquidity, this week? Was it encouraging?
Thank you, Ladi. Liquidity has been a major source of concern as regards trading, especially on the fixed income market. For example, between last week and this week, FAC came in, about 1.2 trillion came in way of FAC. And then coupon payments, about over 400 billion, also came into the system. But remarkably, the system is still in repo of well over 500 billion as of today. And so that will tell you how tight the system liquidity is, and obviously affecting trading, especially on the fixed income market, especially where you see, bonds and bills being traded, the trading on especially on the bonds and bills is greatly being affected by the liquidity. Yesterday, there was an NTB settlement from Wednesday, and then of course another 300 billion left the system. So with this liquidity, we expect that system there will be bullish sentiment. Of course, those who lost at the two auctions this week would have been would have gone to the secondary markets to fill in the orders. But unfortunately, the tightness in the system is really affecting a lot of things, especially on the fixed income market.
Right, I can imagine. And we know the government initially offered 180 billion naira in the October auction, with 90 billion allocated to each bond. But despite the offering of a lower amount, we saw the total allotment that surged to about 289 billion naira. What does this tell us?
So it shows that in that auction, there were two maturities on offer, 2029 and then 2031. So the 2031 is where you have the major bid from, and that shows that the 2031 is more lucrative. Investors look for that bill, for that bond, in order for investment purpose. So if you drill down to last month auction, which is on September, you will notice that there were three on offer, but the 2033 was also on offer, but it wasn't on offer this time around. So majority of investors, especially the PFAs, prefer the long end bond, and that's why you saw a lot of bullish sentiment on the 2031.
And we see Nigeria's public debt hit about 134 trillion. That's in the second quarter of 2024, according to DMO. But domestic debt accounts for about 53% of that total debt. FGN bonds, dominate about 78%, of that debt. So what is the implication of this? And is it something we should be happy about, at this point, seeing that it's more domestic?
Well, debt is debt, whether it's domestic or foreign. So nobody wants to be in debt, But what it means is that the DMO, strategically, is trying to reduce our foreign portfolio, foreign debt, especially as regard to FX, because of the exchange rate and all that. So a lot of attention is on the local debt, especially on the fixed income market, treasury bills and bonds, and that is why you see that. Many a times when, for example, last auction on the bond side, about 180 was offered and well over 286 billion was sold. So it's easier for the government to to service local debt than looking at international or foreign debt. So it's not something we'll be excited about. But I think if you weigh the two options, it's better to be in the local debt than the foreign debt, where you don't have control over the FX exchange rate fluctuation, for example.
All right, so we're seeing the government more reliant on local debt at this point. I guess, some have clamored for that, in the past, seeing how the valuation, racks up your debt payments and servicing. But, talk to me about general activity, the fixed income market this week.
Well, debt is debt, whether it's domestic or foreign. So nobody wants to be in debt, So this week started on an auction. The bond auction was on Monday. Like we mentioned earlier, about two maturities were on offer, 2029 and 2033. And so that auction took us into the NTB auction, where well over 350 billion was also offered. Settlement was yesterday, and so that, of course, took out a lot of cash in the system. So if you look at the auction, especially the longer end of the curve, that's the 1 year bill, for example, which came out at 20.65. Is currently trading above that level, which indicate that appetite isn't there, and that obviously is also indicate that market is still expecting a higher yield due to the fact that it will be more lucrative for them. And then, of course, looking at what the government is also doing in terms of borrowing, we just talked shortly before now, we talked about local borrowing. It's seen that government will continue to rely on local borrowing. And if that happens, it means that the yield will continue to be attractive. And then, of course, it will continue to go up. But then, like I said yesterday, we do not see, higher yield, especially NTB above 21%. So within 19 to 20%, 21%, we see the 1 year on the bill side. Today is the last day of trading. We expect market to be quiet. Of course, also we expect that there will be cherry picking, especially those who lost at the two auctions, the bond auction and the T-bill auction. So we expect moderate trading, but slight bullish sentiment, going into today's market.
We'll be definitely watching out for that. Thank you so much, Chuka Nwachukwu, Head Balance Sheet Management, UBA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ladi. Thank you very much.
And it's still earning season right here, and Nigerian Breweries PLC posted its financial statement for the first 9 months of the year, recording 159.7% increase in its pre-tax losses compared to the same period last year. So we see Nigerian Breweries, the key highlights there. Revenue was up about 74.66% at 710 billion. Gross profit, 209 billion, up 37.59%. Then the big one, that's the you can call it the elephant in the room. Forex transaction losses, 160 billion naira, that's up 84.4%. We see that trend with most of the consumer goods stocks this time. But when the banks are declaring their bumper profits at this point. But when we look at most of these consumer goods and the industrials, we see this trend going through most of their financial results. So the trading is on right now. We'll give you a summary of how it closed. That's for News at 10. But you also get intraday analysis on what's playing out in the local bourse and most of the global markets that we track. That's it from me on Business Morning. I'll hand things over to the Sunrise Daily team.